practice is called Satipatthana, meditation training or training of the four foundations of mindfulness to develop insight into mind and matter. This practice has been laid out methodically and systematically by the Buddha over 2,500 years ago. If you continue to do this practice, at some point you will begin to recognize how much gratitude we owe this extraordinary being for teaching this utterly profound Dhamma. The following four foundations are all meditation objects to be noted one by one and observed. The first foundation is physical body or physical phenomena. All bodily sensations that arise fall under this first foundation of mindfulness. Example: pain, ache, chill, heat, itch, fatigue, etc. The second foundation is mind or mind base or mentality. This pertains to all thoughts, all emotions, ideas, opinions, memories, plans, imagining, speculating, judging, reflecting, so forth. The third foundation is feelings, Vedana. And in Buddhism, feelings are either one of three categories: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. For a new meditator, it's been advised not to concern oneself with neutral feelings. They're too subtle. To stay with pleasant or unpleasant feelings. There will be plenty of them. The fourth foundation is the Dhammas, or translated into English, all occurrences that arise at the six sense doors of one's experience: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching or tactile sensation, so touch sensation, and the sixth sense door, which is thinking. Though a new meditator cannot realize this yet, these four foundations make up our entire mental and physical world. To begin, try to keep your mind, but not your eyes, on the abdomen. You will thereby come to know the movements of rising and falling, or the expansion and contraction of this organ. Without using lips or verbal speech, make a very definite mental label, rising, making sure to experience the actual sensation occurring within one's body due to this rising sensation. For example, one can experience the stiffening or pushing movement due to the sensation of rising occurring. When the rising ends, make a mental label, falling, making sure to experience the actual sensation within one's body due to this falling sensation. For example, one can experience the contracting movement within, or the collapsing sensation. Try your best to disassociate your noting from the shape of the abdomen. Instead, try to concentrate to know as much as possible the actual occurrence taking place in each noting of rising and each noting of falling. To see the actual occurrence, our minds have to be right there, observing, observing, observing. So, in other words, notice what is occurring by putting the mind right on the object. Note the object that's starting to occur and observe what is being noted. If you cannot keep your mind on the rising and falling, then after noting the next rising and falling, add the mental note sitting and moving the mind from the head downwards to the feet. Experience the sensation due to the whole posture sitting. Here again, try to disassociate from thoughts of my head, my back, my buttocks, etc. Instead, throw your momentary awareness into the momentary sensations that are presently occurring. After due time, if you still cannot keep your mind on rising, falling, and sitting as your meditation objects, then add the mental label touching and experience the sense of hardness or the sense of stretch that is occurring. Here again, try to disassociate your attention from thoughts of the shape and the features of one's bottom parts and the legs that are touching. Instead, try to fully experience the momentary sensation that is occurring due to these touch points. Usually when we close our eyes, we see the head, the buttocks, the back. This is all imagining. Images that will lead nowhere but where the mind's always been. You may begin to notice that our minds are habitually lost in remembering or reflecting on an object after it's passed, or imagining an object before it occurs. This meditation practice is all about training the mind to label the object present and seizing the sensation with our observation at the actual moment it is occurring. This mental effort is the very opposite of being lost in thoughts. Normally, we see objects vaguely through a haze, or our attention is usually scattered all over the place. By taking a risk here, we are removing the mind lost in dullness or habitual patterns, and we are aiming our intention on a meditation object, either mental object, mind, physical object, body, on feelings, which is feeling objects, or the six sense doors, which is the seeing object, hearing object, smelling object, tasting object, touching object, or thinking object. Label this object now present and plunge the attention into our momentary experience. When the mind wanders off the meditation object, make a mental note, wandering mind, or forgetting, forgetting. If you imagine something, you must know that you have done so, and make a mental note, imagining, imagining. If you simply think of something, mentally note, thinking, thinking. If you reflect, note reflecting. When you catch yourself planning or remembering, note planning, 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 or remembering, 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 again and again. When talking to oneself, or when an opinion arises, come to know this is what is occurring, and note these diligently. When involved in this mental training, one comes to see that our inner mental dialogue is not sacred or special. Rather, it's mere, endless, conditioned chatter. In a similar way, we can begin to recognize that our opinions are not sacred or special at all, but can be observed as foolhardy notions about things not known, not experienced firsthand. Allow yourself the freedom from less and less opinions by noting these opinions over and again. Allow yourself the freedom from less and less mental chatter, less and less mental dialogue, by noting this dialogue, this chatter, again and again. If a picture or a color arises, note seeing. If tension arises, anger, sadness, disappointment, frustration, boredom, restlessness, note all these mental states and try to become aware of the additional physical states occurring. Note any distinct physical occurrences. When a pain or discomfort arises in the body, focus your attention directly on the painful sensation, the physical discomfort. This takes a quick, alert mind to go immediately into the unpleasant physical sensation, noting paining, or unpleasant, and staying closely on this sensation, just as if you were doing research with a microscope. You may see throbbing sensation. Note this intently. Maybe a pounding sensation will be observed, or a numbing sensation, or an itching sensation, or a pulsing, vibrating sensation. If you wish to train the mind to observe yourself clearly and honestly, then noting, courage, and forbearance must be developed here in order to face these unpleasant physical sensations and not react to them. One Sayadaw explains it in the following manner. He says there are 3 ways of mindfulness meditation as regards pain. The first is to concentrate on the pain so as to make the pain disappear. The second is to make this pain go away in an aggressive manner. The third is to contemplate and realize the truth about the pain you are suffering. The first way that he mentioned, to concentrate on the pain as to make it disappear, this, he says, is a mind that's concentrated on the pain with the intention of to have it pass away so as to be relieved of the pain and to attain pleasure. This is done by greed, that is, being greedy for our pleasure. Mindfulness meditation is not for pleasure, but to stop the greed in us. And if we cannot kill our greed, we will not be able to realize its true nature. So, he says, we should not contemplate in this way. The second way that was mentioned, to make the pain go away in an aggressive manner, he says the second way is where you determine yourself to get rid of this suffering is not good either, because there is anger in the determination. In other words, determination is colored with anger, and mindfulness meditation does not allow anger to creep in. The third way is how you should concentrate your mind on the pain itself. So the third way, I'll reiterate, is to contemplate and realize the truth about the pain you are suffering, how it has come about, and what are its qualities. When pain occurs, this meditation teacher says, yogis would like to pull themselves together. We must let our body and mind relax. We must not be anxious and ask ourselves, will I have to stay like this for the whole hour? Or will I have to go on suffering like this all the time? Pain or suffering, he says, will come as it will, and our duty is to be mindful of that pain. We must keep a calm mind and be patient. We must have patience, which is the main thing, because it is only with patience that we can reach Nibbana. Patience is the most useful thing in mindfulness meditation. We must be calm both in mind and body and be relaxed. Don't be too taut. Keep our mind on the pain and think where we can pinpoint it and feel how painful it is. We must concentrate very deeply on the particular part of the body where the pain occurs and say to ourselves, paining, paining, aching, aching, and know exactly where they occur and how painful it is. Superficial mindfulness meditation is not allowed. If you are mindful of such pain, numbness, and aches, you will notice that these pains and aches will become more severe and unbearable. Just as the pain occurs and becomes unbearable, so also will that pain lessen and subside naturally. But we should not lessen our concentration. You should earnestly and enthusiastically continue being mindful of them and say to yourself, paining, paining, aching, aching, throbbing, throbbing, until they disappear one by one, or until the painful areas change places. Desiro goes on to say, when you become very energetic and enthusiastic in mindfulness meditation, insight will arise. As your concentration becomes stronger or advances, the pains and aches will disappear as soon as they appear. You will notice that the pain does not go on for long. Neither does your mindfulness meditation, nor does the knowledge of the pain. All things are not everlasting or permanent. They are all impermanent or transient. Birth and decay are so quick and painful. Protection from such transience and pain is not possible. So we come to know that pain is anicca, impermanence. Pain is dukkha, suffering. Pain is anatta, uncontrollable. When these various bodily sensations change, come back to noting the primary meditation objects, rising, falling, and or sitting and touching. Catch thoughts by noting them as soon as you can. Catch thoughts by noting them as often as you can. As much as possible, note feelings of pleasant or unpleasant as they occur. From time to time, examine whether your pleasant or unpleasant feelings are mind or matter. During this examination, note examining. There are 6 sense doors. There is constant contact occurring at one of these doors in any given moment. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. Example, when one finds themselves looking at anything, any object, activity is occurring at the eye door. Note this. Example, when placing food in the mouth, activity is occurring at the tongue and taste door. Note this phenomena. Example, when a thought arises, activity is occurring at the mind door. Note this phenomena. Try more and more to note immediately when seeing, or when hearing, or when smelling, or when tasting, or when touching, or when thinking. Using resolve to help you, try to hold the posture still throughout the entire sitting meditation in order to do the following. 1. Develop concentration of mind. 2. To develop patience and forbearance. 3. To develop mindfulness on unpleasant objects. 4. To develop the ability to note under any conditions. This causes tremendous courage to arise in a yogi. However, if a painful sensation is overwhelming, then first note unbearable, unbearable, then note intending to move, then very, very slowly move just the unbearable bodily part, noting moving, moving, moving. Then immediately focus the mind on the primary meditation object with renewed diligence and begin again. Only your own efforts will show you how valuable this mental training is. Only through your own earnest application in noting and observing will a meditator come to see the conditioning forces, the conditioning process that rule one's mind. Possibly a key or a guide to how to note and then notice these various mental or physical objects is in this manner. Focus the mind on the object with the mental note, the mental label, and at the same time magnetize the mind momentarily to the object that is being observed. If you were a scientist in a laboratory, you would have to hold the microscope steady on the object under scrutiny. Well, this is scientific research into the mind and body process. Using the mind as the microscope, it must be held steady to look at itself. Next is walking meditation instructions. Choose a length of pace about 15 or 20 paces. Next, keep eyes downward, not looking off in the distance, but downward, 4 to 5 feet in front of one. Then, to begin, you can use the one step for the first part. So you can break up walking meditation in 3 parts. The first is the one step, left, right. So you would do left, right, left, right, left, right, until you come to the end of your walking space. When you reach the end, note standing. Then note turning. If you find it helpful, note intending to walk. Feel that intention arise and note intending to walk. And then again, left, right, left, right, left, right. After you've done this, say, 15 minutes, you can break up walking meditation 15, 15, and 15, or 20, 20, 20, whichever the time span is left for one. Sometimes a full hour is there, sometimes a little less than an hour is there. The next walking part is the walking meditation of the 2-step. And in that walking meditation, you would do lifting of the leg and then placing it down. So lifting, placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, making sure you're not noting lifting or lifting before you finish placing. When you reach the end of your walking space, note stopping or note standing, note turning when you begin to turn. If you feel the intention to walk, note intending to walk. And then begin again, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing. That's the second step of the walking meditation. So it's called the 2 slow step. The third step is lifting, moving, placing. So it's up, forward, down. Lifting, moving, placing. Again here, your mind has to be completely focused on the lifting as it's lifting, on the moving as it's moving forward, and on the placing as it's moving down. When you reach the end of your walking space, note stopping or note standing, note turning, and then note intending to walk, if you find that helpful. If you find yourself looking, either realize that you're looking and immediately put your mind back on lifting, or stop completely, note looking or note thinking, and then put your mind back on lifting, noting lifting, and begin again. The 1-step walking meditation, the first one I gave, left-right, should be used in the early morning when one first wakes up. It's a good way to energize the body. Or after meals, because there's physical sluggishness at times. It's a very good way to energize the body. And the third time, late at night, again, to energize the body. In between those times, when it's not early morning, or it's not after meals, or when it's not late at night, one can drop off that left-right walking meditation and just do the 2-step and the 3-step. However, if one is sick, has a lot of physical pain, then it's been advised to do the 1-step, the 2-step, and the 3-step, so to break it up in 3 parts. If one has a lot of stomach problems, this is always a good meditation to do first. Sayadaw says that walking meditation is just like the battery in a car. If you don't continuously charge the battery, the car will not start. Here, you must continuously charge one's practice with walking meditation in order to have an effective sitting practice. Next is eating meditation instructions. When we arrive at the food, make a mental note, arriving, arriving, or seeing, seeing. As we begin to move, to gather the various plates or utensils, make a mental note, moving, moving, touching, touching. Again, seeing, seeing. When we arrive at our chair, make a mental note before we put the plate down, arriving, arriving. Then, as we're putting the plate down, note placing, placing. Then we have to pull the chair out, note moving, moving. Then we need to sit down on the chair, note sitting, sitting. The food should now be in front of us, note looking, looking, and seeing, seeing. Then we want to eat the food, so note reaching, reaching, moving, moving. We're bringing the food towards us on a fork or spoon. Note bringing, bringing, touching, touching. When we put the food in the mouth, of course, note touching, touching. Then we close the mouth, closing, closing. We begin to chew. Note chewing, chewing. A taste bursts through. Note tasting, tasting. At that point, the taste may be pleasant or unpleasant. Note this, pleasant, pleasant, or unpleasant, unpleasant. When we begin to swallow, note swallowing, swallowing. And we're reaching again for another bite. Note reaching, reaching. and starting all over again, bringing, touching when the food touches our lips or mouth, and so on. Daily activities meditation will be continued on the other side of the tape.